Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And today we're going to be talking about that thing that every person, almost to a person, when you talk about this, they go, ew. And that's sales, right? None of us want to be in sales. Got news for you, folks. All of us are in sales. And so there are definitely ways to do it, to make it easier, to make it better, to make it more successful. And now really is a time when we might be struggling. As we're recording this, we are in the middle of the pandemic. We're not networking. We're not going and meeting with clients face to face. So we might be having to really rethink what we're doing. So it's actually a great time to be doing this because we have time to be rethinking this. And so please join me in welcoming my guest to the program today. Welcome to Rylee Meek.
Hey, Deb. Happy to be here. This is going to be fun.
Great. Well, let me tell people about you, and then we'll jump into this because this is really going to be interesting. So Rylee Meek is the host of the Sales Conversion Podcast and founder and CEO of the Social Dynamic Selling System, which turns dinner seminar marketing into a science. After responding to a small ad on Craigslist in 2009, Rylee was introduced to a new concept of selling, one in which radically changed his life forever. Having just $673 in his bank account, but more importantly, a burning desire for more, Rylee went on to produce over $100 million in sales over the past 9 years. Now that he has perfected his model through continual trial and error, he is sharing this learned wisdom and is on a mission to help other entrepreneurs and business owners achieve the revenue goals they have to live the lifestyles they desire. Everything he teaches is tried, tested, refined, and proven to create a predictable, sustainable, and scalable selling system. So again, Rylee, welcome.
Yeah, quite the intro. I appreciate it, Deb.
It's great fun, and I'll ask you later to tell me what dinner seminar marketing is.
Sure.
But as I mentioned, we all go sales. Ew. I mean,
Right.
and it's because we have the connotation of the used car salesman, the person who, comes up and they're so smarmy that afterwards you're going, yeah. And you end up buying from them and you didn't want to, or more importantly, you don't buy from them, even if you needed the product or service because you just went, ugh.
Yep.
That's what we think of when we think of sales. And of course, that's the opposite of what we need to be thinking about. So how is it that you discovered that this really is your passion in life?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head is that, we are all in sales, no matter what business you think you're in, or, if you're an entrepreneur, a one-man show, if you're a mailman, if you are a stay-at-home mom, you are in sales at the core of it, because we're all born with that innate ability to sell. And as a child, as a baby, when we come out of the womb, our very first thing when we're hungry or we need a diaper change, what do? We cry. Right.
You get somebody's attention.
Exactly right. And we do that up until the point where we our mommy or daddy give in. Right. So we learn just intuitively, we learn if we, stimulate we're going to get a response, and that's crying up until we can actually verbalize and use our words to get what we want. So, but at the core of what sales really is, because I want to make it clear that it isn't a negative thing, or it shouldn't be. I understand why people have that connotation to it. Just if you look over the last, 3-4 decades of what sales was, what that looked like back in the 80s, the Tin Man, the used car sales guy, Slick Rick, whatever it is. It is like you have a conversation with them and you feel like you need to go take a shower afterwards because it's like gross. And those guys are still out there. Don't get me wrong. They're still out there. But at the core or the root of what sales really is, if you take the Norwegian root of that word, selje really means to serve.
Ah.
And if you go about it in that realm or that facet, to serve, if you have a true product or a service that you really believe in that helps people, at the core of it, that's what you're doing, right? Of course, you're trying to get them to make the purchase to make money, because that's what how we make the world go round and make a living, provide for our families, is to sell our products and services. But if you're going about it in a way in which you're truly providing a value to somebody, take that mindset, that of sales is a bad 4-letter word, to that you are actually serving and providing a good product or service to somebody. That's going to just help all sales interactions, moving forward, that you are truly there. And if you have that conviction that you're providing that product or service to serve, that will help your overall sales process. With whatever product or service it is that you're selling. But, and coming back even to, we're all in sales. What I often mean by that is, if you're married, if you're in a relationship of any sort, you better believe you're in sales. I mean, I'm every single day I'm selling my wife on why she shouldn't leave me. Right. Like it's because I want to keep her around. Right. Or even if you're a parent, I have an 8-year-old daughter. Her name's Ellie.
Oh yeah. You're selling all the time. And
Absolutely.
she's reciprocating, right?
Oh, she is. Absolutely. And man, children are the best sales reps, because they don't quit. They are relentless.
And especially little girls and their daddies.
Oh yes. Yes, absolutely. There's something special about what they can, how they can manipulate their especially their daddies to get what they want. Right. Because part of it is kind of the squeaky wheel always gets the grease. But that is a learned response that even as kids, what I had mentioned before, we're starting out from crying to get a response. And now, it's no different than Pavlov's dog in that they, ring the bell and they would immediately start to salivate. If you're giving into it, at some point your kids learn the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and that's why they're relentlessly annoying little brats, because there's no like discipline involved, which creates just that type of environment where can be taken from a positive perspective, but also can be taken in a negative perspective too, that you do get we do kind of ingrain that kind of used car type salesman aspect into them if they keep asking and asking and asking. As much as I love that from my daughter, because she knows what she wants, there still needs to be like boundaries of okay, honey, like daddy said no, we're not
enough.
Right. Absolutely. So I mean, I love sales just from that perspective, because starting early out when I was, I grew up in South Dakota, small town South Dakota, and there wasn't a lot of opportunity there. And my very first job wasn't in sales. It was actually to make pizza at our local gas station. I was 15 years of age, and I didn't really, my parents didn't ask me to get a job or anything, but I just felt like it was something that I should do. I was more than capable, and I got my driver's license and wanted to impress the girls.
Spending money,
right? Yeah, exactly. So I took this job, and at the time, minimum wage was $5.15 an hour, and of course, as a 15-year-old, that's what you're getting, minimum wage. And I worked one shift. It was during the summer. One shift. I worked 8 hours, and at the end of that shift, I did the math in my head, and I thought, there's no way I'm ever doing this again. So my first shift was my last shift. Because I was like 8 hours times 5, $40. The government gets a percentage. And I was like, what the heck did I just do for the last 8 hours?
You came out in the hole.
Exactly. And nothing negative against that, because what really bothered me about that was not that they put that value on my time, because an employer puts a value on the employee's time. Like you're worth.
They have to.
They have to. Absolutely. $10 an hour, 15, $20, whatever it is. And because if you're not going to do it, they'll find somebody else to do it. That's the value that they put in that time. So what really made me mad was that I allowed them to put that value on my time. Because I knew even at the age of 15, I knew my time was worth well more than $5.15 an hour. And that's when I really started to look in what's out there. What are the options? Because I'm thinking like future, I'm in high school. Like, what am I going to do for a living? Provide, I know some people don't even think about that, but that was a thought that I had it, as a young kid. It's like, how am I going to provide for my family? And how am I going to get that cool car? How am I going to, get that house on the lake or whatever it is? So
how are you going to not be in South Dakota?
Exactly right. Yeah. So if you do kind of flash forward a few years, literally the day I graduated high school, I moved up to Minnesota, which is where we reside, part-time. Now we also have a condo down in Florida on Clearwater Beach. So we get the best of both worlds. We get the beautiful summers up here and the lakes in Minnesota, and then the beautiful winters in Florida. Fast forward that, at the time, between the age of 15 to 18, I dove into as much personal development that I possibly could, because I knew that schooling in itself wasn't going to give me what I needed. Like, I was able to learn and memorize certain subjects and things like that. Did well in school, but I knew that wasn't going to get me to the level of what I wanted to do in my career life and my path. And so I read lots of different books just on personal development and mindset. And I was involved with a network marketing company, because at 15, it's like, I don't know, what can I do? What can I sell?
Right.
And, from a business opportunity, my family was really involved with this company called Herbalife, which is still around, a multi-billion-dollar company. And I would attend like these weekly meetings, monthly meetings. And man, I completely drank the Kool-Aid on this company, which I loved
they're very successful. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I loved the environment that I could be around like-mindseted people, where it was like everybody had a big vision, and 99% of them never achieved it, but it was still like there was a vision that I mean, we could learn from industry experts and just kind of network and be a risk, because surrounding yourself with those type of people is so important. Really, the 5 people that you surround yourself with is going to make you, better or worse. And I realized that at a young age. And so when I moved up to Minnesota, one of the things that I didn't really like about network marketing was you're always like hitting up your friends and your family, right? Like I didn't.
And pretty soon they run when they see you, right?
Exactly right. And part of the thing too was all of my family was already in it. So literally, I mean, I didn't have anybody. Everybody already
you had no one to sell to.
That Kool-Aid. Exactly. So when I came up to Minnesota, we had to get creative of like, all right, how am I going to find cold traffic? How do I reach people that don't know me at this point? And so we got creative, and I ended up putting together this little ad in these newspapers. And we were selling like nutritional supplements at the time. And it was, the ad that I put in was, "We pay you to lose weight." And my phone rang off the hook. It was unbelievable. And this is all through trial and error. And I didn't really understand what I was doing at the time, but my phone started ringing and I was like, okay, I had to build out these scripts. I had to build out this little presentation of like packages, good, better, best. And this was like really my beginning stages of what sales really was. It's like people were I was scheduling appointments, they were coming in, and I would present, go through kind of a needs analysis of where they're struggling, what their issues are, what their goals are. And then, so I basically identifying the need and then attaching what I had to solve the need. Right. And then from there, simply, if they wanted it, great. If not, no big deal. But I was getting them, creating sense of urgency. I was getting them to be able to make a decision. And again, whether it was yes or no was fine. I was still able to get them to make a decision, because most people do not make decisions. We are procrastinators in nature, right? And they need a reason to make that decision. And again, I don't care if it's no, that's fine. At least I can move on to the next prospect.
But let me think about it is one of the worst things you can hear.
Ugh, yeah, my skin, I just got goosebumps hearing that. Like, man,
sorry.
So that was like the early beginning. And before I knew it, by the time I was 19, I was retailing over 10 grand a month with these nutritional supplements. And it was great. I got my first BMW. I thought, man, this is it. I'm really something here. But what I realized was what I was doing was not something that was really duplicatable. It was
Okay.
all based 100% on my own efforts. And as much as I loved what I was doing, I was working 16-hour days.
Right.
Like it was long, I didn't even have
Mm-hmm.
time to drive my BMW. And I realized that it wasn't going to be something long-term that I wanted to continually pursue. And so that was kind of my first realization of like, I needed a system. I needed something in, that I it wouldn't have to be like in the, the network marketing world. They always talk about 1% of 100 people efforts versus 100% of your own efforts. And that's what I really loved and bought into, because you want that, like you want to sit on the beach and still know you're collecting a check. Right. That was like my desire then. Now I don't think I could ever not work a day in my life, just because I love it so much. But that was like my thought process or desire back then. So I kept looking at different opportunities and having additional money to be able to invest into different things, or just to be able to have some flexibility and freedom. Fast forward a couple more years through different sales jobs and things that I was going through, I ended up landing an opportunity in Mexico, in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, in which a different company, but they were opening up operations down there. And I thought, man, this is it. I can get on like what, they call the ground level. Like I can really build this business here. And so I ended up, my wife and I had a condo here in Minneapolis, or Edina, one of the metro suburbs here. We had a condo that we rented out. My wife was pregnant at the time, but we thought this is it. This is what we're going to do. And we committed and flew down and spent 5 months in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, growing this business. Things were going well. It was awesome. Like work by day, sit by the beach at night, have a couple cervezas. It was a wonderful time. But about 5 months into this, the government shut us down. They said, no more. And I don't think, to be truthful, I don't think enough palms were greased for allowing that company to be.
Which is, the way it works in a lot of places.
Yeah, exactly. So I found myself on a flight back to the States here. And on that flight, I'd pretty much invested everything that I had monetarily, into this opportunity down there. And on the flight back, I actually had the realization that not only was I virtually, broke, but I had rented out my condo for a year. I had 1 year lease. This guy was staying in so I was like homeless.
And you had pregnant wife.
Yes. So you can imagine all these thoughts going on in my head. We found ourselves sleeping on my sister's couch for a few months. And it was what I kind of called like my midlife crisis. I hope I live longer than that, but
it was making you really think through things.
It really was. It really was. And this would have been 10 years ago now. And I was just looking for like the next opportunity of what was I going to do? Because, financially, highs and lows, as a lot of entrepreneurs have experienced. And if you haven't yet, you will, I promise. But there's peaks and valleys in any, endeavor that we're going through. But this is just one of my kind of ultimate lows where financially things were tight. Pregnant wife, baby on the way. It was just like, what the heck are we going to do here? And I was looking for the next opportunity. And of all places, a few months into this of just kind of soul searching, what are we going to do? I knew I could always go get a job. That was never, not out of an option, because
you weren't going to be destitute.
Exactly. It was just, I felt like there was something more for me. And of all places, Deb, I came across this ad on Craigslist. And which you remember, it's still around, of course, but this would have been the early 2000s, maybe 2005 at the time. All this ad, it literally just said, work 3 days a week and make $10,000. And I thought,
that sounds good.
Right. It sounds good, but I thought, no way.
Yeah, right. Major skepticism.
Absolutely. But of course, I had to inquire upon it, right? It was like, what is this all about?
That.
Right. So I ended up hopping on the phone with this gentleman, and he started talking to me about doing these presentations to groups of people. And it didn't really hit home for me what he really meant. I was just like, okay, well, tell me how I can make $10,000. And he said, you know what, why don't you just come on down? I've got an event. It was a couple-hour drive from me, but it wasn't like I had anything else going on. So I hopped in the car, and I ended up walking into this room, and this gentleman there was like 20 to 25 people sitting in this room, facing forward, eagerly, like literally eagerly listening to what he had to say. And he was talking about his products and how they could help. And then dinner came out. And then at the end of dinner, he simply asked for an appointment to meet with him. So for those that wanted to know more, how much it was going to be for their project, they scheduled an appointment. So out of those 20 to 25, he collected 7 actual appointments to meet with him the very next day.
Wow.
In which he was able to then, close probably half of those deals. I didn't follow up with him the next day, but it completely blew my mind because everything that I had done up until this point was always one-on-one, like just like how we're interacting now. I would sit down, do a full-blown
here's
presentation.
My stuff.
Yep, exactly. And depending upon how long those presentations were, it could be 1, 2, up to, I remember some of the early products I sold, it would be like a 3-hour presentation in hopes that they would buy. And as much as I loved the idea, in sales, they talk a lot about you can earn what you're worth. As an independent contractor, you earn what you're worth. Your income earning ability is uncapped. As much as I wanted to believe that, I didn't really believe that because I knew, again, my own efforts, it's based solely on how much I could put into it and partly based upon how much time is in the day. Like I can only do a certain amount of presentations in one day until I'm emotionally exhausted. And I ended up, when he delivered this presentation, he did one presentation, hour and a half or so, and then he got 7 actual appointments. And it rocked my world because I was like, holy cats, if he could do that with one presentation, heck, I'll do a presentation every single week or every single day and collect these appointments. So it was not only leveraging his time, which I think is the most valuable thing we have, but also his marketing dollars by grouping people together. And so my mind just started spinning and I thought, holy cow, what could I sell through this format? So I actually took a few of his ideas of what he was offering. I added a few of our own. And within a couple months, I had hosted my first presentation. And really not knowing what I thought, this can't be that hard. I could figure this out. So I picked a town. I sent some direct mail little postcards. I got a few people to RSVP. And at the time too, Deb, remember I was close to broke, right?
Right. So you weren't inviting them to a filet mignon dinner.
No. Definitely not. I wish, but I had a $673 in my bank account. I think you mentioned that in my intro, in my bio. And I had that and a credit card. And I had a hope and a vision. And that's what I was going on. And I did my first event. I picked up a few sales from it. I learned a ton. And I invested that money into another event. And I invested that into another event. And I started to learn different aspects of this on how people make buying decisions. And by the end of that year, so this would have been July of 2011 in which we hosted our first events. Fast forward 6 months to the end of that year, we had done 2.1 million in sales.
Wow.
And
what were you selling?
This is the funniest thing. We were selling insulation, LED lighting, weather stripping.
So definitely not sexy. I mean, you weren't selling, a condo somewhere. But, and it's funny because we make faces at that, but those are things that people need.
Absolutely. And you hit it on the head. Because the funniest thing is I am the least mechanical person on the face of this earth. To the point where these pictures behind me you see here, my wife hung those because she wouldn't let me. I mean,
you knew better.
Exactly right. So it's funny that I was selling like these kind of home remodeling type products. Certainly nothing I had any passion for. But what they did is we identified a need. And if anybody's out there like, okay, even this sounds cool, or I don't have a product or service, really just think about like, what is a need that's out there right now? And right now with COVID that things are going on, there's different needs that have
totally different
come
needs.
about versus what maybe were needs 4 months ago. And so constantly being aware of what's going on in the marketplace is a key component. And from there, it was like identifying a need. How do I get people to take action? So, an issue at the time would have been high utility bills. And so by re-insulating the attic and putting in LED lighting, that's lowering the overall wattage, brings down their utility bill. It was simple, basic things that people just didn't necessarily think of doing. And we created an invitation
Mm-hmm.
that made sense for them.
Mm-hmm.
We got them to show up to the event. We delivered the presentation on not only really how they work, but more so in the sales process. I believe every single buying decision is an emotional decision, but it needs to be backed by logic to prevent cancellations and things like that. So creating stories to take people on this emotional journey of what it would look like to feel those products within their home, to not have those drafty windows when you're getting out of the shower, and that shower curtain, the wintertime thing. Like, we spoke directly to really even their subconscious to get them to be able to feel what that would look like when they had these products in their home. And I think this wasn't anything that I knew right away, but it was a learned process. And thankfully I was able to, make sales and, pay my way through this process of actually learning. So by the next year, 2012, that would have been, I realized this was cranking. So let me now recruit, let me hire some reps. And by the end of that year, that was my sole focus. By the end of that year, we had 26 sales crews within 38 states throughout the country.
Holy cow.
Yeah, we did 12 million in business that year. And again, in 2013, and at that point, it's like, okay, this thing is really working. This is a well-oiled machine. The product is pretty much irrelevant, is the realization I had. So I thought, what else could we sell through this format? What's another need that we could identify? And so I started another company, and then we continually added new products to that. I started another company, and now leading up to, it's 2020 now, I've started 7 different companies.
Wow.
In different industries, and every single one of them we've taken to 7, and a couple of them even 8 figures within the very, very first year. And that's how we've accumulated this over 100 million in sales. But I think the key component is not that it's about me at all. It is about the system that works, and it can work for anybody, any product, any service, by strategically developing a campaign that speaks to your true client avatar. But speaks to it even in a subconscious format in which we're getting people to feel and to understand what it would look like to own those products or to own the services that you'd actually would offer.
Right.
So that's kind of, my long background and story, but really through that process, it just has become my love for, we this kind of started out talking about sales, but it is just understanding that sales is not about manipulation or getting somebody to do something they don't want to do. It's getting them to identify the benefits of why they would want to do it, creating sense of urgency to getting them to make a decision. Because at the end of the day, if you have a great product and you have a great service, but nobody knows about it, or they don't have a reason to take action for it, you're not helping anybody. Right. And that's the mindset of coming at sales from a servant standpoint versus trying to get somebody to do something that they don't want to do. Right. So,
and I love that you identified a need. Even if it wasn't a sexy, glamorous, it was something people needed. Right. And that's what's hard sometimes is, we're the entrepreneur, the business person, and we've come up with the greatest thing in the world, and everybody should want it. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But, there's it, and it does come back to the hierarchy, Maslow's hierarchy.
You bet.
Where we have to have our basic needs met first. And that was an awful lot of what you were doing. Maybe a little couple steps up, but not too much. Getting insulation is really not one of those high things, but it's something that has to be done.
Right.
And it's, again, it's one of those things people don't think about. Do I have insulation? All of these various things, or, whatever the products are. So it was figuring out what you wanted. And it was interesting because as you were talking about this, I was thinking about another interview that I did not long ago where, one of the things that you hear is, when you're doing something you love, it's not work. And my response to that is always, Now, for some people that really does work out, but for most people it doesn't. And so what this gentleman was talking about was the fact that he did what helped him to be able to do what he loved. So what he did allowed him to spend time with his family, to go on vacations, to do all of those things. And so he was cool with the fact that this wasn't the biggest, greatest thing in the world, but it let him do that. And I think that sometimes is where we get lost, because we're thinking, I'm this entrepreneur, I'm this small business owner, and I need to solve the world's problems.
Sure. Absolutely. And I think that what you said, when you're doing something you love, it's not really work. I agree with you. I think that's hogwash, because if it's not work, then you're not doing it hard enough. Right. Yeah. So, that's like, I love getting a workout in my gym, but if I'm not pushing myself to, it's a reason it's called a workout. Like, I love lifting weights, but if I'm not pushing myself to the point where it's actually work, you're not doing you're not doing anything. We are 100% either progressing or we are regressing as human beings. If you are not pushing yourself to the limit, I believe we are all called to excellence at something, right? Each person has to identify what that actually is. But no matter what we do, we should do it wholeheartedly with all of our effort, believing that we're not doing it just for our own good, but for the good of others. And I think that's key especially as an entrepreneur and as a business owner. If you have a great product, a great service, a great idea, you're like, who wouldn't want this? Run with it. But I will be the first to tell you, if you build it, they do not come. I don't care what the movie says. It's not happening. You can have the greatest product or service in the world, but I think you even said this early on, which I love, Deb, was like, if they don't like you, you could have the greatest product in the world, but if you come off as that slimy, icky, gross salesperson, they're still not going to buy from you. Right? It all comes down to sales today has completely changed from what it was 2-3 decades ago. People want to do business with those that they know, like, and trust. Right? And even if you have a product or service that might not be 100% the best thing for them, they're still going to choose you over your competitor that they don't know, like, and trust. Right? It's about relationship.
Pay more.
Absolutely will. Absolutely will. And because of the value that they put on that a relationship, know, like, and trust. Buyers today are educated. They're not the old techniques of what used to work. Like, I think of just the car salesman, like, let me go talk to my manager and, spin it around.
I hate it. And they come back in, all these happy faces are written on the, I've been known to tell car salesmen, if you come back with a happy face written on the paper, I'm getting up and leaving. And he looked at me and I said, not going to cut it. And he was fine. He was like, oh, chuckle. And he said, okay, I do have to run stuff past my manager. He said, but no happy faces.
That's funny. That's great. And more and more people are just, they're sick of that. And they want a genuine relationship, a genuine buying experience, and not because nobody wants to be sold, but everybody wants to buy. And why I love these group events and dinner events is part of that reason. Is we create an environment. It's a neutral environment in which, everybody's there for the same reason. It's to learn what you've got to, we've positioned our clients as the authoritative figure in their industry. They're the expert. We have an audience there that is there to learn, and we educate them. We provide tremendous value. And if you did a good enough job, there's just a component of it when you ask for that follow-up appointment. There's a certain percentage of people that they're just never, they don't need it. They're never in the business. They're there for the free meal. They came
for the free dinner.
Exactly. There's a certain percentage that are going to buy no matter what. And then the majority lies in the middle. And they're like, you know what? This seems like a good idea. I really like this guy or this girl. Let's meet with them. Let's see what they have to offer. And that's where the magic happens in delivering a presentation, getting them to know, like, and trust you, and then getting that a follow-up appointment to meet with them the next day. Again, that's through creating sense of urgency, but that's the unique approach that we use, that I think, and especially right now with COVID and everything that's been going on, that personal, touch, that just experience, or maybe, we're elbowing or we're pounding now versus handshake. But just sitting down. Yeah, exactly. And being able to break bread with somebody, there's just something special about that. And part of that too is the law of reciprocity is is in place.
Mhm.
Like I've delivered great value. I've provided you a nice meal.
Mhm.
Subconsciously, just they're subconsciously
Mhm.
obligated to give you an
Mhm.
additional set
Yeah,
time.
they feel, "Oh, okay, I probably need to," yeah. Mhm.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's just a unique approach. And again,
Mhm.
this dinner seminars aren't for everybody.
Oh,
I'll be
right.
the
Mhm.
I'll be
Mhm.
the first to tell people that. And that's why we always start out with a strategy call, just to identify what it is you sell.
Mhm.
And even further than that, we really dive into what do you really, really sell?
Mm.
So when I ask,
Mhm.
what is your product or your service?
Mhm.
I don't care what the product is. If it's a
Mhm.
tangible physical product, um, let's use a pen. Okay. You sell
Okay.
pens,
Mhm.
right? You don't sell pens, right?
Right.
Because people don't buy a pen because they want a pen. They
No.
want the pen so they can write.
Mhm.
And whatever their, whoever their
Mhm.
client is, they don't want the pen just to write. They
Mhm.
want the pen to be able to deliver a message
Mhm.
that makes somebody feel comfortable or
Right.
inviting, or whatever the
Mhm.
use of that pen is. So we
Mhm.
get to the benefits of the benefits of the benefits
Mhm.
of what your product is,
Mhm.
and identifying if who your true client avatar is, who
Mhm.
needs this, and can we build an invitation to get people to take
Mhm.
action, take them on a journey to a compelling presentation, to take action, to
Mhm.
want to order your products or
Mhm.
services. A pen is probably not a great example, because dinner seminars, if you're selling a pen, right,
Mhm.
or if you're selling a $48 widget, okay,
Mhm.
with no additional lifetime value
Mhm.
to that product or service, I will be the first to tell you that dinner seminars are probably not the
Mhm.
best route to go,
Right.
solely based upon your return on investment,
Mhm.
right? So typically, because it takes some money, you're buying some nice steak dinners, and
Mhm.
you're crafting invitations. That takes some money to make that happen. Remember, though, I did it with $673
Mhm.
in my bank
Right.
account. So,
Right.
but I
Mhm.
had a product that had decent enough margins that allowed
Mhm.
me to make a 200-300% return on
Mhm.
my investment. That again, I was able to reinvest into our
Mhm.
marketing. Kind of a snowball
Mhm.
effect
Mhm.
once we were up and running. But if you do have a $48 widget, that then you can take that customer
Mhm.
on a buying process that
Mhm.
can upsell them to a $500 product, to a 5,000. You
Mhm.
have a lifetime value to your customer. Then it maybe would make sense
Mhm.
to get them in the door via an event. But we always start out with just a simple strategy call that's
Mhm.
completely free, just to make sure it would make sense
Right.
before we ever
Mhm.
invested any dollars into this.
Mhm.
And I think that's component, because or a key component, because we want to if dinner seminars are not the right way to go,
Mhm.
we'll point you in the right direction.
Mhm.
We have we do a lot of online funnels as well,
Mhm.
for some of our smaller ticket items and things like that. We have phone rooms, call centers, things like
Mhm.
that. So we're a sales organization,
Mhm.
but most of everything we've learned has been from doing dinner
Mhm.
seminars, just understanding how humans connect and respond
Right.
with other humans.
Mhm. Right.
So,
You
uh,
know, and
go
it's
ahead, Deb.
it's tricky because recently, well, we're going to ignore the fact that the last 3 months we haven't been able to have dinner and all those various
Sure,
things.
sure.
But one of the big things that dinner seminars have been known for are timeshares,
Oh
right?
yeah.
And those never come off well. you know? And but and so that comes back to the know, like, trust.
Mhm.
But it's funny because there's another one there, and it's somebody here that I know who does a dinner seminar, and he's talking about financial planning.
You bet.
And that's very different
Mhm.
because he knows his market. I mean, he's talking about wills and estates. So he's you're not his market.
Right.
I'm his market. you know?
Sure, sure, sure.
And so, he knows exactly who to invite. He's trustworthy. We know him. He goes to networking events, all these things. And so we know, okay, well, when we go to one of his events, we're going to get dinner, but we're going to get the sales pitch,
Sure.
but we know that, so it's okay. And so and so that goes back to one of the things, and you actually have it as one of the big key messages on your website is qualified people.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing that I think so many people get so caught up in, and especially when we're just starting out, is we do the shotgun approach.
Right.
We add every single person we come in contact with to our email list or our LinkedIn, or, whatever it is. And then we're going to sell to every person. And most of them could care less.
Right.
They might be polite. They might not unsubscribe or unfriend, but they're not going to care in the slightest. So talk to us really about what a qualified person is.
Yeah, absolutely. So whenever we engage with a new client, part of our process is, as I mentioned, that early strategy call,
Mm-hmm,
and then moving on from there, we want to identify who that true client avatar is.
Right.
And if you're in business, you have you've made some sales, you can probably, narrow that down on what that looks like on
Right.
age
It is not
range.
everyone. I hate it when
Exactly.
I say, and who are you marketing to? Everyone. No,
Right.
you're not.
Yeah, you're wasting dollars if you're doing that.
Right.
There's a science to this approach, and
Mhm.
narrowing it down. It could be age range. It could be by sex. Male, female.
Right.
Is it from the financial planning standpoint? Is it
Right.
people 55 and up?
Yeah.
Is it
Those coming closer to retirement, or is this something that new families need?
Absolutely. Is my true client, are they renters? Are they homeowners? Do they have certain household incomes, or is it lower income that, because some
Right.
products are perfect for a lower income family. So we want to take all that into consideration. And then what we do, if we're, whether it's online or we'll just use direct mail, for example, because we do a ton of direct mail, is we can buy those lists, the data.
Right.
So, you're in Atlanta, if we're going to go to Marietta, Georgia. That's a suburb there, right?
It's just north of us. Yep.
Just north of you. Perfect. So
if I could throw a rock really hard, I'd hit Marietta.
Yeah, perfect. So good. I was a good guess then. So yeah, if we're gonna, identify so demographically we've identified who our client is, but then geographically we want to narrow that in as well. Where do my clients buy? Where are they actually located? If you have an online product, we could maybe cast it, the net wider. But if it's we want to, we're selling a physical, tangible product. We're in the solar industry. Let's call it that.
Right.
We're installing.
You're not going to go 50 miles away.
Sure, absolutely. So we can narrow that down geographically as well, and then we can buy that data. It's scary, really, on how much data is actually out there.
Oh, I know. Anybody who thinks they don't know everything about you, sorry.
Yeah, it's so creepy.
And this has been for years. I mean, I used to buy lists 20 years ago that were really pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. And nowadays too, just with everything online, they know what we're searching, and that's why we search, vacuum cleaners. And the next thing we know, we're on Facebook and vacuum cleaners are popping up on our, with the dirt. So you listening to me? So it's eerie to feel that way, but it's out there. So if it's out there, we might as well use it for our advantage. So we're able to buy then that data, that list, and then we're able to craft a message on how those people will make a decision. And usually curiosity is what works the best. And if it's, solar, for example, we just use that. It's like, all right, well, before you buy solar, make sure you know these 5 tips, or something along those lines, just creating like, oh, well, what is this all about? And then when they come to the event, or they download our ebook or whatever it is, we're going to lay out some good value that they should know. And then more than likely your company, your product is going to be able to solve all of those things that they should know. So that's where we want to qualify the lead as much as possible, but to an extent that's not too niche, right? Because you can go too far in that aspect, right? And we'll just use dinner seminars again, for example. It's funny because we work, obviously, a lot of financial planners, advisors, our clients, but we've really kind of put our flag in the ground that we do. There's a lot of companies that fill events for financial planners, but we do it for pretty much every other industry, and not just financial planners or attorneys or timeshares. We do this for doctors, dentists,
Wow.
we talked about vet dentistry.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't done it for vets yet, but I think that could actually work. We've done it for dog trainers. We've
Oh
definitely done
yeah.
it for them.
Mm-hmm.
We've done this for aviation, how to get your a pilot's license, to
Cool.
investment clubs, to
Mm-hmm.
home remodeling, solar, all sorts of different
Mm-hmm.
industries that we've worked in. That this really works very,
Mm-hmm.
very well for, because at the end of the day, it's just getting a group of people together
Mm-hmm.
in a room that are, interested in
Mm-hmm.
what you have to offer.
Right.
So I forget where I was going with this, Deb, but I think we're talking about like demographics and narrowing
Right.
it
Oh
down.
yes. Mm-hmm. Demos.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't want to make it too niche, because one of it's kind of like a pet peeve of mine, but I love getting this where people don't want to buy dinner for people. Like, it's like, well, I think that's just a waste of money. And
Mm-hmm.
you could send an invitation, you can do your marketing without providing a dinner, and I guarantee you, you're going to get a tenth of a tenth of a tenth
Mm-hmm.
of a tenth response rate.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Versus having a premium,
Mm-hmm.
giving, it's the law of reciprocity. I'm
Mm-hmm.
giving you something. It works
Mm-hmm.
extremely well. But then some of our clients get a little upset when they're like, and they've, I don't know how this word ever came about, but they call them plate lickers, which is not a word that I've ever created, but it's people that just show up that don't even know what the heck they're there for, but they're just there to eat the meal.
Right.
and bowl, which is, to me, I love those people. And
especially if you can convert them. Holy schmoly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can convert them, because a dynamic enough presentation can actually, I've done it many times.
Mm-hmm.
But those people who come in with that attitude, they are typically your biggest allies.
Right.
And the reason is they already know they're not going to do business with you. So
Mm-hmm.
whether it's subconsciously or not, they kind of feel a little guilty. So they're going to just go along with whatever you say. And they're
Mm-hmm.
like your biggest cheerleader in the
Yep.
room, where they're the ones nodding their head like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, yep, yes,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And I feed off them, because when you're doing a group presentation, it's emotionally energy.
Oh yeah, and you need to find the one or two people,
Find your
or
allies.
more, hopefully, but those who are
Absolutely.
nodding and smiling and mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I love those people for that reason, because part of that dynamic, why we call this the social dynamic selling system, is
Mm-hmm.
in any setting, a personal setting, there is a social dynamic that's
Mm-hmm.
happening. Even right now, between you and I, there's a
Mm-hmm.
dynamic that's happening. And when you're in a sales presentation, there is a social dynamic happening where people are kind of looking around going, are they doing this? They think this is a good idea?
I
And
don't
those
know
that are,
them, but if they're going to do it, maybe I should too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, it's one of those things, it's going to happen regardless. We might as well use it to our advantage. And that's why I would gladly spend an extra 15, 20, 30 bucks on a steak dinner for them, whatever it is, for them to put off those vibes and that energy in the room, to create that dynamic that we're actually looking for, to get the others to actually convert.
And most people, I'm assuming, I mean, I'm thinking that the people who are going just for the free dinner are fairly rare. I mean, most of us are, we're not going to do that because we'd feel guilty.
Right.
And so, we're going to pay attention, and whether we follow up or not, of course, that depends on the presentation, but we were at least interested enough to say, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to listen and give them the respect that they need, to listen to their presentation and not just, eat the steak.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, I think you're going to get a few people that, again, just don't care. They're coming for the food. That's fine.
Or show me, you show me.
Yeah, exactly. But for those people, what we teach a lot with our clients is how to deliver a presentation. We've just, with everything we've learned over the last decade in doing this, and just the in-depth ongoing training that I've learned. I'm actually a master practitioner in NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, which is what I love. I geek out to understanding why people make decisions and how they make decisions, and being able to, subconsciously speak to them to want to make that decision, right? We've all heard the phrase, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Right.
But what I could do is put salt in that horse's oats, and naturally he's going to want to drink.
Right.
Right. And so
there's a reason bars give you chips.
Exactly right. That's a perfect example of it. It's like they're going to drink more. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, manipulative about that.
No.
It is what it is. You don't have to eat the chips. You don't have to respond to it. I'm just creating that environment. And, you know, if you're going to grasp at it, then great. We'll continue down the path to get you to make a decision. Again, whether that's yes or no, it's irrelevant. At least I've got a decision, so I know where I need to focus my efforts next. So, so I mean, that's our passion really is, you know, how this all kind of came about. Just to give you an idea, we still have our own businesses. I brought a business partner on now. Scott Thomas is his name. He is a master of marketing, and him and I really feed off each other well. And this kind of all came about, you know, 5-6 years ago or so, after, you know, experienced some great success in sales. I had my own companies. Financially, everything was great. But I remember so clear one evening I came home. It was a Wednesday night, because usually, you know, a lot of our events are held on like Mondays, Tuesdays, and then we're out selling our deals on like Tuesdays, Wednesdays. And I came home this Wednesday evening, and I remember so clearly, I just had this feeling of like unfulfillment within me. It was just like this, you know, financially things were great, but it was just like, I didn't enjoy what I was doing. I had zero passion for what I was doing. No passion for any of the products that we were selling. So when people say you got to find a product that you're passionate about, and I think you had mentioned this too, it's like,
you got to at least not be meh.
100%. But remember, I was selling home remodeling products. Like, I don't care about any of that stuff. But what I was passionate about was providing for my family. And the vision that I had put in place, you know, at a young age, of what I was going to do and accomplish in my life. And so whatever those products were, they certainly couldn't be anything, you know, that would hurt or harm anybody. We would never do anything like that, but they need to provide a need and a service to people. But I just felt like this feeling of unfulfillment. And I think it really boiled down to, for anybody listening that's maybe had some financial success in their life, you quickly realize that it's not always about the money. Right. Unless you don't have enough of it. When you don't have enough of it,
it's about the money.
About the money, right? And then once you have it, it's kind of like, well, now what? And you realize there's more to it than that. And I thought back to the early days of when I very first started out in sales, of, you know, the feast and famine kind of lifestyle, the struggle of where I'm going to get my next lead, where the next sale is coming from. And just that stress of not only how am I going to pay the bills for my company, but how am I going to pay the bills for my family, that entrepreneurship cycle, which it's not easy. And I get it for the entrepreneurs on the call here. I've been there, I've lived it. And I thought back to, man, there are so many people that have a passion for their product, a passion for their service, but they just don't know how to reach the masses. And as we mentioned, if you have that, but you don't have a lead system or a sales system, you are not doing anybody any service, your clients, nor you or your family, right? You've got to have a lead generation system. And so that's when I thought, like, man, maybe the system here is the product. Like, could I teach this to people? And I just started to write everything from how we identify the avatar, to our marketing pieces, to how do we negotiate prices with the restaurants, to how we set up the room. What time do we have dinner? Or is it a breakfast, or is it a lunch? All of that came into play, even to how we follow up with people that don't make purchases. And I laid out what we now call the social dynamic selling system, into a very structured program that we teach our clients. And I actually I wrote a book on it called Food for Thought, how to use dinner seminar marketing to grow your business.
Yes, Vanna.
In ways you never thought. Yeah, here it is. And it's available on Amazon. But the real reason I wanted to create this book was because I remembered, you know, starting out, again, with the few dollars that I had, I didn't have a lot of money to invest into myself. And we take on clients, but that cost money to you know, afford my time. I don't say that like arrogantly, but I just say that
you are your product, you are your service. I mean, you know, you're
exactly. Yeah. But I wanted to be able to help those that still was the 22-year-old me.
Yeah.
Like,
and so they can buy the book.
Exactly. And everything in this book is literally there's so much content in this book that can lead you to starting your own campaign within the next month, you could have your own campaign simply by going through this book. And then, from there, we put together some digital courses, trainings that teach people how to do it. Even sales training I have a second book coming out called Intentional Influence, which is, using NLP and how to speak to the subconscious to get people to make those decisions. And then we have obviously done for you type programs, which is like hiring us to actually do and run your campaign for you. Which that's where it takes some money to do that. We can only take on a handful of clients each year to do that. I love doing that. That's my passion, but I didn't want to only help those that had a big marketing budget. I wanted to be able to help those that were early on starting out, that had a vision. And you either have time or you have money, right? And if you don't have money, you got time, you still have every aspect. You are not further behind. In fact, I would think you are further ahead than somebody that only has money, because your time is your most valuable asset. And if you can, focus on, surround yourself with the right mindseted people, read the right content, feed your mind with that type of information, positive affirmations, you're going to be far ahead of somebody that only has money, without a doubt. Because that's the entrepreneur, the solopreneur starting out to somebody with a few clients or a few employees. That is the journey that you're going to go on. And that's going to be, when I look back now, I've missed those days of when I was first starting out. It was like, that was
That would have been so exciting.
So exciting. So exciting. I made so many dumb decisions, but it's so fun to look back on because the thrill of the hunt during that time is like what fuels me. And
and you learned from the things that were the dumb decisions.
Absolutely. And because I truly there is, if you think you have failed at certain components in your business, do not look at it in that fashion. Look at it as there's no failure. There's only feedback. And what you do with that information is what makes you a failure or not. If you take that feedback and can apply it to, how to make it different or how to go about it a different way, you're never going to be a failure in the entrepreneurship world. Just stick to it. Those that hustle are always going to wind up on top.
Right. And you mentioned time. We are about out of time, but what I was going to say is, as we're recording this, it is June of 2020. This is going to air a little bit later. And then of course, people listen to these for months and even years, but right now we have time. We're not commuting. We're not going to networking events. We're not going and meeting with clients. So now is a great time to be thinking about all of these things. I think there are a lot of people who are completely rethinking their careers, either by choice or by, maybe not so much choice. And so you have to have these things in order. So tell people how they find you. And you mentioned that your book is on Amazon, but if they want to reach out and connect to you, how do they do that?
Yeah, the best way, a couple sites. So socialdynamicselling.com. Great site. I have a dinner seminar blueprint on there that you can download for free. And it just kind of basically takes you through the 6 different steps that we take our clients through. RyleeMeek.com, which Rylee is spelled Rylee. It's a little different.
There's a lot of E's in your name.
A lot of E's, yeah. And my daughter's name is LE, so I had to keep the E's going.
Of course.
But on there too, another great place for the book. So you can buy the book on Amazon. It's a paperback copy that gets mailed out to you. But we also put together, I think it's like $15 or something on Amazon. But also socialdynamicsalesacademy.com. And I put together a free plus shipping offer for that. And what I'll even do for those is I can email out immediately an electronic version of the book. So you can get, reading on it right away. It's just a PDF version, but for those that it's unique because you can get after it right away, but I have it step by step. Don't skip around, read through it from front to back, because it is strategically in that format to have your own campaign up and running within as little as 28 days.
Right. And of course the benefit is that you've qualified these people and you're giving your initial presentation to many people, as opposed to one. And then you do the one-on-ones.
Right. Absolutely. It's really kind of an offline funnel that, we're starting with a group audience. We're narrowing it down to our niche, people that respond. We narrow it down to those that show to the event, to asking for an appointment, and then ultimately meeting with those that actually make the purchase. So it's a great system. It's unique. And I tell you, it's worked like gangbusters for us.
I love it. I love it. Well, again, probably the easiest is RyleeMeek.com. That'll get you everywhere else you need to be, with lots of E's. RYLEEMEEK. So I love it. I love it. Well, do you have any final thoughts for everyone?
Final thoughts. I have so many thoughts, I guess. But I mean, with action comes clarity. Okay. So, and especially right now, with what's going on with COVID, there's so many people that have pumped the brakes. They aren't spending money on marketing dollars because of uncertainty that's happening. I'll tell you, when it happened, we doubled down our ad spend online, because I knew people are going to be home and they're responding more. They're looking for stuff to do. They're
not commuting. We just went through the whole list of all those
exactly.
things.
So with action comes clarity. If you're not sure the right way to go about it, schedule a strategy call with myself or somebody on my team. We're happy to spend 30 minutes with you, no charge, and at least give you some of our advice or 2 cents, whether that's with us or not. We can give you, some direction. But if you're going to do it, just freaking do it. Otherwise, what are you doing? Like, we have one life to live. We live it every single day. There's no reason to sit back and wait for life to come at you. Go after it and take life by the horns.
Perfect. I love it. Well, this has been a great discussion about sales. Right. It was fun. We made it fun. I hope everybody enjoyed this, because it really was very interesting. And something that isn't for everyone, but there's tons of resources and things on Rylee's websites. So please make sure you go and check those out, because there's a variety of different things. And now really is a good time to be thinking about things like this. So I'm Deb Creer. I've been having a great time talking with Rylee Meek. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.